Good morning, Virgo. Welcome to the channel. This is a love tarot reading for the collective. Not all of the messages that come through in this reading may apply to everyone watching today. So please only take in from this reading what speaks to your soul and what resonates for you and for your situation, and release the rest to the universe. Okay, so let me be clear from the start. Waiting for someone else to initiate the talk is passive position that gives away your power. If there's conversation you need to have, you can initiate it yourself. And if you've been waiting for someone to bring clarity to ambiguous situation, that waiting itself is answer. They're not prioritizing resolution the way you are. So let's talk about what the talk actually means, why waiting for it keeps you stuck, and what changes when you stop being passenger in your own relational life. Waiting is decision, not neutral state, not suspended animation until someone else acts, but active choice to remain in ambiguity rather than demand clarity. And that choice, it costs you time, costs you emotional energy, costs you the opportunity to make informed decisions about whether this situation serves you. So when content tells you someone is ready to have the talk you've been waiting for, when it promises clarity is coming from external source, it's reinforcing your passivity, it's validating the waiting, it's suggesting that your strategy of not acting until someone else acts is correct strategy, but it's not. Waiting for clarity that someone else might provide keeps you stuck in exactly the position you're trying to escape. How long have you been waiting for this talk? Count the weeks or months, honestly, because here's what the talk usually refers to: defining the relationship, establishing commitment level, clarifying intentions, addressing incompatibility, resolving conflict, making decision about future, together or apart, heavy conversations, vulnerable conversations, conversations that require both people to be honest about what they want and whether what they want aligns. And those conversations, they're uncomfortable, which is why people avoid them, which is why you might be waiting for someone else to initiate, which is why they might be waiting for you to initiate. Mutual avoidance creating stalemate, where both people want clarity but neither wants to risk the vulnerability of asking for it. Does that describe your situation? Be honest about the dynamic you're in, because here's what someone is ready suggests. They've been building toward this, working through internal resistance, preparing themselves to have conversation they've been avoiding, reaching point where not talking becomes more uncomfortable than talking. And that could be true. People do reach thresholds, do overcome their avoidance, do finally initiate difficult conversations they've been postponing. But ready doesn't guarantee action. Plenty of people get ready to have hard conversation and then don't have it, lose nerve, convince themselves timing isn't right, find new reasons to postpone. So even if someone is genuinely ready, that readiness might not translate into actual conversation, might remain internal state that never becomes external action, which means you're still waiting, still in ambiguity, still without the clarity you need. Can you keep waiting indefinitely, or do you have limit? Know your threshold before you reach it, because I need to address what you might be hoping this talk contains. You probably have specific outcome you're hoping for, specific thing you want them to say, specific clarity you're hoping they'll provide, Maybe you want commitment, want them to define relationship, want them to choose you explicitly. Maybe you want ending, want them to release you from ambiguity, want clean break instead of ongoing uncertainty. Maybe you want explanation, want them to account for their behavior, want them to make sense of confusion they've created. Whatever you're hoping for, be honest about it. Because if the talk does happen, if they do initiate, if conversation does occur, it might not contain what you're hoping for. They might offer different clarity than you want. They might want to talk about different thing entirely. And if that happens, if the talk arrives but doesn't resolve your specific need, you'll need to decide whether you can articulate your need directly or whether you'll accept partial clarity and continue waiting for rest. What do you actually need from this conversation? Get specific so you can assess whether you're getting it. Because here's what actually drives people to finally have avoided conversations: external pressure, something forcing the issue, deadline approaching, other person demanding clarity, situation becoming unsustainable, internal threshold, discomfort of not talking exceeding discomfort of talking, guilt or anxiety about avoidance becoming unbearable, recognition that postponing is causing more harm than addressing would, circumstantial change, new information, shift in availability, other opportunity requiring decision about current situation, not cosmic timing, not divine orchestration. Not content telling them now is the moment, just normal human dynamics creating conditions where conversation becomes more likely than it was before. Which of these might be operating for the person you're thinking of? Assess based on what you actually know about their situation, because I want to talk about your role in this dynamic. If you've been waiting for someone to have talk with you, if you've been hoping they'll initiate clarity conversation, why haven't you initiated it yourself? What's stopping you from being the one who says we need to talk about where this is going? Is it fear of their answer? Fear that initiating makes you seem needy or pushy? Fear that demanding clarity will push them away? Because those fears, while understandable, they're keeping you in position of powerlessness. They're making your clarity dependent on someone else's timing and willingness. And that dependence, it's not serving you. It's keeping you suspended. It's making you wait for permission to know where you stand. You don't need permission. You can create the conversation yourself. You can be the one who initiates clarity. Why haven't you? Answer honestly, because here's what happens when you wait for someone else to initiate. You give them control over timing, control over framing, control over which topics get addressed and which remain unspoken. They get to decide when you get clarity. They get to determine what clarity consists of. They get to manage the conversation in ways that serve their comfort level, not necessarily your needs. And you accept that. Accept subordinate position. Accept that their readiness matters more than your need for resolution. That's not partnership. That's not equal dynamic. That's one person controlling access to information that affects both people. And if you're in that dynamic now, if you're waiting for them to grant you clarity, recognize the power imbalance. Recognize what you're accepting by waiting. Recognize that you're participating in structure that doesn't serve you. Can you see the pattern you're in? Recognition is first step toward choosing differently. Because I also need to address what the talk might actually reveal. It might confirm what you're hoping, might provide the commitment, the clarity, the resolution you've been wanting, or it might disappoint, might reveal that what you want isn't what they want, might clarify that incompatibility exists that can't be bridged, or it might be ambiguous, might provide partial clarity while leaving other questions unanswered, might move things forward slightly without fully resolving the uncertainty. And whichever outcome occurs, you'll need to decide, is this enough? Does this give me what I need? Or am I still in position that doesn't serve me? Because the talk isn't magic. It doesn't automatically fix everything. It's just conversation. And conversation only helps if it produces actionable information that allows you to make better decisions. What will you do if the talk happens but doesn't resolve your uncertainty? Decide now so you're prepared. Because here's what I really need you to hear. You don't have to wait. You don't need someone else to be ready. You don't require their initiation to have conversation about your relational needs. You can create the talk yourself. You can say, I need clarity about where this is going. You can ask direct questions that demand direct answers. And yes, that's vulnerable. Yes, that's uncomfortable. Yes, that risks hearing things you might not want to hear. But it's also powerful. It's active. It's you taking responsibility for your own clarity instead of making someone else responsible for providing it. And that shift from waiting to initiating, from passive to active, from hoping to demanding, that's where your power lives. Not in waiting for them to be ready, in being ready yourself and acting accordingly. Can you make that shift? This determines whether you stay stuck or start moving, because ultimately, here's the situation. Content promised someone is ready to have the talk. Promised clarity is coming from external source. Promised your waiting is about to pay off. And maybe it is. Maybe they will initiate. Maybe conversation will happen. Maybe you'll get the clarity you've been seeking. But even if that occurs, even if they do bring it up, even if talk happens, the more important question is, why did you wait? Why did you give them that power? Why did you make your clarity dependent on their readiness? Because those patterns, they don't just apply to this situation. They apply to how you navigate all relational ambiguity, and they're keeping you passive when you need to be active. So whether the talk happens or not, whether they initiate or they don't, the real work is examining why you waited, why you didn't create the conversation yourself, why you made someone else's timing more important than your own need for clarity, and then choosing differently next time, choosing to initiate, choosing to demand clarity, choosing to stop waiting for permission to know where you stand. That's the real shift. Not getting the talk, but becoming the person who creates the talk when they need it. Stop waiting. Start initiating. Stop hoping. Start demanding. That's where your power is. That's where clarity lives. Not in someone else's readiness, in your own. Use it. The talk you're waiting for, you can have it right now. Pick up your phone, send the message, create the conversation. Stop waiting for someone else to give you clarity that you can demand for yourself. Your power is in initiation, not in patience.